Hey there, my name is Mary Kim, and today I'm back with another episode. Today we're going to be talking about the two major connection channel between a front end or a client and a back end or a server. So in this tutorial, I'm going to explain the HTTP and the WebSocket to show how a back end and a front end communicate basically. So with no further ado, let's quickly jump into that. So let's start with HTTP. And HTTP protocol, and basically it's a request response protocol between a client and a server, and this is the primary mode of transfer for the World Wide Web. So how does it work basically? So a user comes to the front end or to the client, and from there the user can send a request to a back end, and the back end will reply with a response or either will throw an error. So let's say maybe you want to submit a form. You come to a page and you want to sign up. You put in all your credentials. Then when you click on that sign up button, that will send a request to the back end, a request that you want to sign up. Then the back end as a response will bring back a response, and in that way you can either sign in or you can be directed to the home page after being signed in, and that means all your credentials have been stored somewhere in a database, and that's how basically it works. And then we are going to talk about WebSockets. So basically WebSockets allow either the server or the client to pass a message to the other without any relation to the previous request. That means if something happens to the client can send a message to the back end, and if something happens to the back end can send a request, can send a message to the front end, like something has happened to the back end or something has happened to the front end. And so if you want to differentiate between HTTP and WebSocket, is that if you look very closer, for HTTP, the request only comes from the front end. That means there is only the front end that can send a request to the back end, and the back end will reply later on according to the request that was sent from the front end or from the client. What is very different from WebSockets? In WebSockets, both can send a message. So the back end can send a message without receiving any request from the front end, and the front end can send a message without any previous result from the back end. So for the WebSocket, they're just messages that are sent between a client and a server, and it doesn't matter which one has sent the message first, which is different from the HTTP request. For the HTTP request, it's only the front end that can send a request to the back end, and the back end will only reply with a response or will either throw an error. And that's how basically in most cases a front and a back end can work, or the client and the server can work, so that we get a communication channel between the front end and the back end. So let's say you have created your application, let's say a simple application where a user is supposed to log in or to sign up. So basically for the HTTP, you have to get all the users' credentials from the front end and send them to the back end as a request, and now the back end will bring back a response saying maybe user signed in or user signed up or user failed to be signed up, something like that. Okay, but for WebSockets, let's say you have a chat message, okay, a Node.js chat application, and I think I will do a tutorial in the future about that. In that case, when you look at WebSocket, a user A sends a message to a back end, okay, to a server, to a Node.js server, and then the Node.js server will flash the message to the other user, to user B, from the front end to the back end, there is something that has happened to the server or to the back end. So in that way, one person will set back end, then B and the back end in of the person B, and basically those are tutorial about this in the future.